Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Step Up to the Mic. This is the place for aspiring and established speakers to take the stage, deliver their talks, and bring them directly to you. Folks, we have an absolutely wonderful speaker today. She is an amazing lady. She's an international speaker, a trainer, a warrior, and a firewalk guide. Please welcome to the stage, Harriet Bratt.
It is an absolute joy to be here with you, Rory, and also in the company of speakers. Hello, friends. Whether you are an experienced speaker and you are someone that's speaking regularly, you are creating impact, you are creating the building your income, or if you are just getting started, there will absolutely be something, a moment of inspiration, a takeaway, an aha moment, or even a strategy for you to take away today. And before we jump in, I'm sure many of you are aware, but I really want to take a moment just to connect you with the value and the potential that you have as speakers. It's funny, isn't it? This won't be new information. You will have heard this before, but bear with me and let's put it into a little context. Public speaking is one of the biggest fears in the world. Now, it's actually because public speaking is the umbrella to so many different fears, right? A fear of judgment, a fear of making a mistake, a fear of being misunderstood, a fear of success, a fear of being challenged and not able to answer a question. There's a huge list of different nuances that go underneath the umbrella of public speaking. But either way, it's still described as the biggest fear. And yet, at the same time, it's also one of the biggest skills, the most powerful skills that you can have as a leader, as an entrepreneur, even within your workspace. So this has been fact for decades, for many, many years. Yes, Warren Buffett, who I'm sure many of you have heard of, investor, entrepreneur, he said that public speaking is the best skill that you can invest in and that you can have as an asset. And that was, as I say, decades ago. But now we are in a time and space where information is absolutely everywhere. With love, and this applies for me as well, there are probably hundreds, if not thousands, of people doing similar to what you do. Nobody will do it in the same way as you because we're all individual and bring our own style, yes? But there are many people that are doing similar. And then, of course, we have Google, YouTube, and even more extreme now, AI, where all these answers, so much information, even if it's not entirely accurate at times, all this information is at people's fingertips. So now more than ever, public speaking and even more than that, impactful speaking, bringing yourself, not this polished, perfect robot behind the pulpit speaking or behind the stand, etc., speaking out, but the real, the human. Yes, people are always craving that human connection again. And it's a skill that can provide, build, and develop that connection, building relationships, building trust, building credibility for you and your message. So I hope I've driven that home enough. Like, you're listening to this podcast. Are you using the skill? Are you speaking up? Are you putting yourself out there more to be in situations where you can add value, create impact, but also build your income as speakers, as leaders, as entrepreneurs? So I'm going to tap in today to the 5 pillars of not just speaking, but impactful speaking. Because as I started to say a moment ago, I really believe that it is one thing to speak, it's another to impact. Anybody can stand behind the mic and share. Anybody can jump on a Zoom call or a podcast and speak. But to really create those shifts, to really create the instant wins, and to provide transformation as you show up consistently as a speaker, that's a skill. So anyone can speak, but are you mastering the skill to impact? And even some of you might be going, oh, I don't know if I can speak, Harriet. Again, we're all going to be at very varying levels listening to this, but you can. You need to move through that fear, and that's okay. It's a very natural, normal feeling to have. In fact, as I said earlier, it's the number one fear, but you can speak. But now, how do we refine that skill? How do we become truly effective communicators? How do we create those moments of transformation so your audience doesn't just like clap in the moment, they remember you when they walk out the room? And I highly recommend taking notes during this. I'm going to drop some gold in here. But when they walk out, what does your audience walk out thinking, feeling, and knowing? And I'm going to tap more into that in a moment. But what do they walk out thinking, feeling, knowing? What experience have you provided as a speaker? So, the five pillars that, again, whether you are just getting started or whether, like me, you are experienced, but you are a student for life, you are continuing to master this incredible skill. There are five pillars to really bring that impact. Number one, your warrior's mindset, unleashing your warrior within and truly showing up in a bold, authentic, expressive, consistent, and there's the word that we all hear, but we're not always the best at doing. Building yourself as a speaker and creating that impact and income means showing up consistently. It means developing a mindset that supports you to be persistent and resilient. There are going to be days where speaker opportunities are flowing in, all the yeses are happening. You just did an incredible talk and you got a great conversion. And there'll be days where you go to sell and the room goes quiet and it feels incredibly awkward and embarrassing. There'll be days where you make a mistake. There'll be days where there's a stage that you really want to speak on says no. There'll be clients that say no. Yes, like with anything in life, anything, but especially, of course, in the context of this conversation, in your speaker journey, there are going to be ups and downs, highs and lows. So, yes, absolutely develop that calm constant. But what is going to support you in staying consistent and resilient? Your warrior's mindset, the way that you communicate within. Yes, before we even think about external dialogue, are we thinking about internal dialogue? How are we speaking to ourselves? Is it in a way that supports us to show up, to deliver, to provide that impact? Or are we speaking to ourselves in a way that holds us back? I don't know if I can do this. This isn't for me. I'm not as good as them. Imposter syndrome whispers occurring in the background. And I'd love to speak on these topics for days. We do at our events. But of course, I need to be aware of yours and our time within this space today. So I'm not going to dig into this other than to say, pay attention to how you speak to yourself, especially when you go to speak, when you go to put that camera on, when you go to walk on that stage. Allow yourself to calm your mind, take a long, deep breath, calm your mind, and focus on the benefit that you have for your audience. Fear is us in our mind going, what if it goes wrong for me? What if I make a mistake? What if I forget what I'm going to say? Like we're thinking about ourselves. But when, and by the way, this is absolutely key for impactful speakers. Yes, speakers can think about themselves and their content. Impactful speakers are always thinking about their audience. Yes, the mic's on them. Yes, the camera's on them. Yes, it's their content. Yes, it's their information. Yes, they are facilitating the space at that moment in time. But when we do everything for our audience, from the preparation to your entire presentation, even to the fulfillment and the conversations around that, now you are truly being a heart-centered speaker, impactor, and leader. So, bringing that back, when we do that, when we focus on our audience, we dissipate fear. We cannot be in a state of fear and a state of service at the same time. Yes, our mindsets are amazing, but they cannot process positive, negative, empower, disempower, faith, fear at the same time. So, one way to move through fear is to focus on your audience, focus on the difference you're making, focus on the benefit you have, and ensure that you are speaking to yourself in a way that supports you and your presentation rather than leaves you in that state of fear or panic. So, number one is your warrior's mindset. Two, your message. This is one of the biggest mistakes that I see speakers making. And to be honest, I used to make this mistake all the time. Occasionally, I still do because I get really excited and I just have this affinity to give, right? How many of you listening to this now, you're kind-hearted. You have a message, you have value, you have information, teachings, content, wisdom, whatever it is that you want to call it. Because again, we're all going to be delivering and speaking in different styles, different ways, but also on different topics. But what is the key? What is the message? Because as these big hearted, kind, wonderful leaders that we are, especially when we're getting started, we kind of want to give everything that we've got, right? The more I give, the more I'm helping. And as I say, in the moment, in the room, that can bring an abundance of claps. Wow, insight after insight, light bulb, moments, magic. However, the truth, more often than not, this stays inside of their mind. A few of you may have heard the joke. It's supposed to be self-development, not shelf development, right? It's not about getting your audience to take a load of notes in the moment, then go back, put that book on a shelf, and never look at it again, and therefore not utilize your information. So earlier on, I said, what do you want your audience to walk away thinking, feeling, and knowing? This is your message. What do they remember? Not when they're in the room with you 2 weeks, a month, a year later. Imagine someone comes running up to you. Oh my goodness, Rory, Claire, Jack, whoever's listening to this podcast. I heard you speak the other week. I heard your keynote, or a month ago. I heard your keynote a month ago at the Unleash Your Power Incredible Warrior Within event. Can you tell I just made that up in the moment? I saw you speak and I loved what you shared. Thank you so much. And you, of course, being kind, being gracious, but not being an ego. You say thank you. That's kind of you. But because we're impactful speakers, not speakers, we're impactful speakers who want to make a difference when we share, you ask, what did you take away? What do you remember? What difference has it made for you? And their answer back to you should be some form, some iteration of your message. And when we've done that, we've done our job as a speaker. They've walked away thinking, feeling, and knowing. And for those that it's truly right for, those that it's truly relevant for, acting on your message. I hope I've delivered the importance of your message there. Providing a meaningful message whenever you speak, whether you are about to go on a video, on the camera, onto that stage. Think to yourself, what does my audience walk away thinking, feeling, and knowing? What is my message? What is the point of me sharing this keynote, this presentation, this interview, etc. today? So, number one, your warrior's mindset. Number two, your message. Number three, of course, compelling content. And we could spend days leaning into structure or template, or for those of you that like to channel or download in the moment. Again, no good, no bad, no right, no wrong. Everybody has the ability to make impact in their unique style. However, remember what I said a moment ago. It's not about you, it's about your audience. So, yes, show up authentically. Yes, show up in your style. You may have guessed by now, I'm quite an expressive. I speak fairly quickly. I still know to pause and have my moments, but I'm quite a high expressive speaker. There are other speakers that are very calm, very stationary. Again, it's not good or bad. It's leaning into you, your style, and the way that you show up as a speaker. But it's about your audience. So, what is best for them? Being you, but delivering that content that makes a difference. Does it include stories, examples, of course, your teachings? And I personally recommend putting your teachings into a signature framework, a model, a blueprint, a method. Again, just to make it more memorable. There's a few reasons why we do that, but that one's key to make it more memorable when they walk away. But how do you craft and create your content in a way that is relevant, connects, and naturally takes your audience on a journey within that talk and maybe even into your offers if there are people listening that are speaker entrepreneurs. So don't just get paid to speak, but you also provide your offers, and you might speak for free, but you get paid through your courses, your programs, your retreats, events, etc., etc. So, are you crafting compelling content that is relevant, that is engaging, that is congruent, of course, with your message, and that amplifies your message, and of course connects with your audience, with where they are right now? And very quickly before I move on, I'm just going to say that is a big key to being impactful. Meeting your audience where they are. Your expertise, your topics, your wisdom may be the same. Your framework may be the same, but in different environments, your examples, your quotes, your stories will be different. Let's just take pillar number one. If I'm teaching warriors mindset to a group of entrepreneurs that are just getting started, they've just left the corporate world, they at present have very little income as an entrepreneur, and they really are at the just getting going stage versus 6 to 7 figure entrepreneurs that have been doing this for a long time, have systems in place, and are really just looking to refine, improve, and scale their impact and income. It's still mindset. My framework would still be the same, but what I put in my content would be totally different for those two different audiences. I hope this is making sense for everybody. So your warrior's mindset, your clear, concise message that makes it memorable, your compelling content that connects, is relevant, and amplifies that main message. And then the last two pillars. Number four, of course, and this really is my favorite area to support people in, your delivery. And I'm sure a lot of you, it's gone quiet, but for a couple of years, it was everywhere, like content or delivery, content or delivery. And I think more often they were speaking about within the online space. But for me, it was also very relevant to speakers, right? Content or delivery. Now, please don't mishear me when I say this. I'm not saying that like one of them isn't important or one of them doesn't matter. I've had that before in a space. Someone challenged me and said, they both matter. And I said, I completely agree. They absolutely both matter. Your content and your delivery are part of you being a speaker and creating that impact. However, let me ask you this. If two people stand on stage and they have exactly the same content. Like I trust and hope this won't happen in a world of AI, maybe, but I hope this won't happen. Two people stand and they have exactly the same content, word for word. One person stands there, delivers in a monotone way, standing still, reading, or if not reading, just sharing with no breaks, no engagement, no interaction, just consistent. I'm trying to do a monotone voice, but I've been doing this too long. I find it really difficult. It becomes boring. People switch off. So no matter how good your content is, people aren't listening to it. They're not engaging. Whereas this person number two, the warriors in the house, they have incredible content, the same content, but they deliver in an engaging, effective, trust building, interactive, connective, relevant, transformational way, utilizing space, physiology, voice inflection, exercises, again, that are relevant to the room, that are done in an effective way, that don't feel forced, that don't feel awkward, that don't feel uncomfortable, but is you taking command of the transformation or the information and shifts that you provide when you speak. That's the power of delivery. Can you see why it lights me up? So, shifting into our last pillar, and as I say, I could talk about all of these for an incredibly long period of time, and do connect with me if you want to know more. But our last pillar, and a lot of people's favorite pillar, the business side, right? The income. A lot of what we shared so far is about making that impact. And then the business side, how do we get paid or sell our services as speaking entrepreneurs? So, building our income and our impact. Now, funny enough, when we get to pillar number five, we kind of have to do that cycle again. Yes, we have to lean back into the warrior's mindset. Now, there may be some of you here that are selling very confidently and you enjoy doing it. I would ask, can you refine that offer? What's your conversion like? Is the congruency between your content to the offer and the value provided linking in a natural way? Is the offer that you are providing being received by the audience in the right way that makes them want to buy if it's relevant? But especially for those of you that perhaps have been speaking for a while or you're just getting started. And if you've been speaking for a while, you're confident delivering your content. You get excited, you get into your teachings, you get passionate, and then it comes to the sell. Ooh, and that awkward feeling. Like I used to get it. My whole body would just like tense up and recoil in that moment. It was horrible. I hated it. But again, pillar number one, I had to work on my mindset. I had to understand, for me personally, the value, the meaning, the way to sell that felt comfortable, and actually reframing the perspective that selling isn't just increasing your income, it's actually increasing your audiences, your participants, your clients' impact. I know listening to this, especially if you're just getting started, but even if you've spoken for a while, there'll be moments of inspiration. There will be value. There will be some aha, or even just a burst of energy for you to put into your speaking and your speaking journey. But this is just a touch in the water, right? And everybody listening, really think about that. When you speak, if it's on a podcast, especially in that space, but even on a keynote, you get 90 minutes to talk, or 60 to 90 minutes is the average keynote time. Can you give everything that you've got in that time? Can you really create sustainable change, shift, and transformation in that time? No. You can create massive value. You can create some small instant shifts that, when sustained, become bigger shifts and transformation. You can create magic in this space. But for ongoing change, for deeper transformation, and for real results, there's more. There's a next level. Not just with me as speaking, but for you and everything that you're doing within your business. So that impact is growing when you sell because you take people to that next step, to that next level, to their desired result. So there's a little pillar one and pillar five for anybody that gets resistant or feels a little bit nervous when it comes to selling. Again, it is a skill to practice and it is a opportunity to reframe how you think of selling. You are offering or you are inviting people to go on the natural next steps within your journey. And of course, around that, you want to ensure that you have your solid offer, any speaker resources that you might need to get booked, to have speaking opportunities for the usual, headshot, bio, a little blurb about yourself, your signature talks. Do you have all of that ready? And does it speak to the result that that event host or that audience will receive? So I'm starting to notice myself going on and off on a tangent. I get excited, probably like many of you do, and there's so much that I would love to share today. But those are the five pillars. Today, if there is anything that lands with you, it's the reminder and the importance of speaking up. Speak up, share your voice, share your message, and share your offers. It is important now more than ever before to show up fully and utilize your voice. Lean into those five pillars: warrior's mindset, message, compelling content, impactful delivery, and of course, monetizing your message, the business side of speaking, to really support you in mastering both your impact and your income as a speaker. But most importantly, even when it doesn't feel quite ready, get out there, speak up, and share your impact. I am so grateful for this space. I am super grateful for Rory. And by the way, side note, doesn't he have one of the most beautiful podcasting voices you've ever heard? The tonality. There's an example of tonality and beautiful delivery as a speaker. But on that note, I want to say a massive thank you to our host and to the podcast that he is providing for all of you as listeners. This is an incredibly powerful space to be in. It has been a pleasure to be with you today, and let's continue rising together.
Harriet Bratt, everybody, and thank you so much for the kind words. That was not necessary, but thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Not
That was
necessary,
amazing.
but true.
That was absolutely amazing. Loved every minute of it. As I'm listening to your five pillars, I mean, I think about 1,000 questions went through my head, but we'll try and contain them. One of the first ones was out of those five pillars. I know you've overcome some things in your life. Was there one of those five pillars that was exceptionally difficult for you when you got into public speaking?
There's yes, absolutely. I was just trying to think of the most prominent ones. I think there's two. One of them is within that pillar that I spoke about of a warrior's mindset. It was absolutely the fear of selling from stages, the fear of judgment, fear of being misunderstood. But also when it came to storytelling, I now see and understand the importance, and storytelling kind of fits into both compelling content and impactful delivery. But at the time, I thought it was bragging. I thought it was boasting. I was like, give the teachings, give the important content that they need to know. Forget the story. That's me bragging. So I found that part exceptionally difficult. And then, secondly, would be really speaking boldly into what's important to you. I think it's very easy to get swayed, to try and please your audience, to try to be liked. It's the flip side of what I was saying about my fear of judgment. But to really show up boldly and fully and express yourself, your business, your message, and what matters for you and your audience in that moment. I found that really challenging. I really filtered myself for a long time.
Sure. What is it when you deal with your students and you're teaching folks how to go through these pillars? Is there one in particular that kind of stands out for students where that seems to be the most common one, or is everybody completely different?
100% it is warrior's mindset. It's pillar number one, moving through the
Yeah.
fear. And I don't care who you are or what level you are at, that shows up for us at varying different times. And I still believe that even experienced speakers can be immensely competent, immensely impactful at what it is they do. But as I say, there are moments, there are audiences, there are environments where a little bit of that fear, nerves show up. Maybe it's testing a new offer. Again, those different environments. And of course, when you're first getting started. So, like I said during the talk, the fear of public speaking is an umbrella. There are so many nuances of fears within that. I've not worked with a single student that doesn't have a fear, nerves, anxiety about something within their speaking journey.
Nice, nice. Now, this is a very unique sort of, I guess, way of making a living, for people to be paid speakers and so on. And yet, so many of us aspire to be in those positions. For you, what was it that told you, hey, Harriet, you need to be public speaking? What made you say, I want to get on a stage? How do I do this?
I don't know if this is a cliche story or not, but I think yourself and many of your listeners have probably heard of Les Brown.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, right? Let's take a moment for him, especially in this space. But I listened to Les avidly, and I think at that time, this is probably about 7, 8 years ago now. Even then, there weren't loads of motivational speakers, top speakers, entrepreneurs out there speaking regularly about what it is that they do. Loads now, it's become a much bigger thing, and there's some immensely famous speakers. But at that time, Les kind of really still held that name for being the number one motivational speaker. So I was listening to him and Tony and a few other teachers like relentlessly, obsessively for what I thought was personal development. And it was when I listened to Les Brown's story, I don't think it was his Georgia Dome speech, it was another one, but he shared that he was sitting in the audience watching Zig Ziglar, and his friend tapped him on the shoulder and said, "Hey, Les, you should do this." And Les is like, "But what? What do you mean? I, what?" And his friend says, "You could be a motivational or an inspirational speaker." And for me, I remember like literally having the same reaction as Les, what? This is a thing? And from that moment, I just became obsessed. I found that it was a skill. I went off, I dedicated time, energy, effort, investments into learning the skill, learning from some incredible speakers, and the rest is history. But that was my entry point.
That's wonderful. The as we were talking about the five pillars, you did mention earlier that a lot of people have kind of an issue with that fifth pillar, the business aspect, because people don't seem to want to ask for the sale. I've found that in a lot of the podcast coaching that I do as well, is that people just it's almost like they feel bad about asking for it. But in your experience with the people you've worked with, is there maybe one predominant reason why people sort of have this issue with saying, hey, here's what I'm selling, here's why it's good for you, and here's what it costs?
Sure. I mean, again, I think there will certainly be different responses, but for me, and I'm sure other people will be able to relate to this. First of all, of course, you've got all the cliches and the stories, right, about being a cheesy salesman. In the personal industry right now, you've got all of this conflict about it's a manipulative way to sell, sending people to the back of the room, getting them in emotional state. It's manipulation. So we hear all of these stories about why selling isn't good. So first of all, we need to move through the mindset part of it. But then secondly, and I really found this to be true for me, and this took a little bit longer. My mindset, I could move through and shift the perspective fairly quickly with where I was at that time. But it was really like reframing the perspective and leaning into selling. Because I think for me, and probably many of your listeners, probably many entrepreneurs, we don't go into business to sell. We go into business to do the thing we love. So, for example, as a speaker, I love speaking. I love events. I love facilitating these absolutely amazing, incredible spaces where people shift, transform, and grow. But selling, what's that? Right? So it was almost like two different zones, two different avenues. I was a natural speaker that I also put a lot of time into the skill, but I was a natural speaker. I wasn't a natural entrepreneur. I wasn't a natural saleswoman. So again, a bit like speaking, it is a skill that we need to learn within our business. So I think those are the most dominant reasons. One is the kind of horror stories and cliches around selling, and two is a lot of people didn't go into business to sell. They went in to do what they love and realized they needed to learn to sell.
In order to keep doing it, right?
Exactly. Right? Because we have to. Yeah, you're not doing it for very long if you're not selling.
Exactly right. I love that. Nothing but honesty. I love I love your energy, in this. I love your magnetism. I could listen to you all day long. But I do have one more question for you. But before we do that, how can everybody reach you? What's your contact information? Best way to talk to or find out more about Harriet Bratt?
Sure. Harriet Bratt, one T for Harriet, two T for Bratt. And I'm on pretty much all social media as Harriet Bratt Speaker. So do come and connect with me, find me, reach out if you've got any contributions or even questions about your speaking or this talk and conversation here today. And my website is harrietbratt.com.
Wonderful. I'll make sure that stuff gets in the show notes too. My final question for you. We have a lot of folks who are listening to the show that are aspiring speakers, folks who want to get on the stage. And so they listen to the show, they watch people like yourself, and they get even more motivated. What's your best piece of advice for folks who either are aspiring or current speakers and are just not quite where you are yet?
So two things. One, if you want to be a speaker, speak. That's my rocket science theory for you there. No, I play, but really, if you want to be a speaker, speak. Reach out, connect to as many relevant to your topic and your audience, etc. Relevant audiences, event hosts, etc. As you can. But even outside of that, I hear so many people saying, "I'm not getting any opportunities. Where do I start? How do I begin?" Like we're in a world of technology. You've got a phone in your pocket, you've got a Zoom screen, you've got a house, you've got an office, you've got a space somewhere where you could hold either something live or something virtual. So if you're building your experience to get more opportunities and get on more stages, then show up and speak yourself to begin with. Broadcast yourself speaking, set up your own stages, and start refining and improving to be invited or to connect with others that will have you in that space too. And on that note, truly, I mean it. This isn't a shameless plug. I'd boldly admit it if it was. But reach out to Rory, to me, to other speakers, to other event hosts that are doing what it is that you want to be doing. Maybe some of them don't respond to your message, but most of them will. And most of them might give you a tip, a strategy, some support, a referral, a stage, etc., etc. So connect with the people that are doing what it is that you want to be doing and be bold enough to ask the questions. Build the relationship, connect, don't just bowl in and pitch. Build the relationship, connect, and then see where that connection leads. Because more often than not, they will lead to events, stages, podcasts, etc., etc.
Love that. Absolutely love it. International speaker and trainer, warrior, and Firewalk guide, Harriet Bratt. Harriet, thank you so much for being on, for sharing the way you have, and for just spreading that great knowledge to everybody. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show today.
It really has been absolutely beautiful. And I meant what I said. I think speakers have the ability to provide so much impact, so much inspiration, and so much influence. So it's been a pleasure to be here. And I want to say thank you to you and what you are doing inside of this space. Thank you, Rory. And thank you to all of you amazing listeners for putting up with us too today.
Thank you. All right, folks, this has been another spectacular episode of Step Up to the Mic. If you're an aspiring or current speaker and you want to bring your talk to the masses, message us today. Let us help you to step up to the mic.